Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar for Enterprise Community Partners, Addressing Rural and Tribal Data Gaps Grant. We will be recording today's session, so if for any reason you are not able to stick through the entire session or you simply want to revisit, a link to the recording and a copy of the slides is going to be sent out to everyone who registered within 24 hours. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Enterprise's Amy Brisson to get us started. Amy?
Thanks, Donna. Yeah, hi, welcome. My name is Amy Brisson. I am the Research Director for our Knowledge, Impact, and Strategy team here at Enterprise Community Partners. Today I'm here with our Grant Specialist, Diane Westcott, to give you the details of a new HUD Section 4 Capacity Building Grant opportunity that we're kicking off. It's called the Addressing Rural and Tribal Data Gaps Grant. And just as Donna said, I want to make sure everybody knows the webinar is going to be posted to the Enterprise Grants website. There's going to be links to all the materials on the Grants webpage, and the email will go out after this session with the recording and the copy of the presentation. So you'll get all of that following the session. So let's move on to the next slide. Just to give you some instructions here, we're looking forward to taking your questions, but for now, everybody is muted. At any time during the presentation, you can submit a question by typing it into the Q&A box. It's located at the bottom right-hand side of the screen. You can direct your questions to all panelists, which is the default. We'll keep track of these as we go, and we'll answer them during the Q&A portion of the presentation. So now let's move on to just cover the agenda for our presentation today. We're going to give you a little background on who we are, Enterprise Community Partners, about the Section 4 program. We will give you an overview of the Addressing Rural and Tribal Data Gaps Grant. We will talk through the timeline, provide some resources, give you some general reminders as you are filling out the application, and then, at the end, take your questions. We can move forward. Just to state this so everyone understands, the content included in this webinar is intended only to summarize the contents of the Addressing Rural and Tribal Data Gaps Grant Request for Proposals, the RFP. Any content in this presentation that appears discrepant from the language in the RFP is superseded by the language in the RFP. So all applicants are strongly encouraged to carefully read the RFP guidelines and to adhere to them. So just to give you some background about Enterprise, we are a national organization. We are dedicated to our vision and missions laid out here, that one day every person will have an affordable home in a vibrant community filled with promise and the opportunity for a good life. And we do that through our mission, which is to create opportunity for low and moderate income people through affordable housing in diverse, thriving communities. So that is who we are and really the sort of mission and vision that's driving this grant opportunity. Now I'll turn it over to Diane. As I said, she's a grant specialist here at Enterprise, and she'll give you some details and background.
Thanks, Amy. As Amy mentioned, my name is Diane Westcott, and I'm the grant specialist who will be administering the grants flowing from this funding opportunity. So thanks so much for making the time to come to this session today. So I'm going to provide an overview of the federal program funding of this grant, and also review some key dates and important information related to the application process. So this federal funding opportunity is available through HUD's Section 4 Capacity Building Program. It's open only to CDCs, CHODOs, and tribal organizations, and HUD has a specific definition for that, to build their organizational capacity to carry out community development and affordable housing activities. And those activities will benefit households of low income, which is defined for this particular program as 80% average median income or below. So applicants must meet the eligibility requirements, which are described in Appendix A of the RFP. It's actually a hyperlink to a separate document that provides a lot of information that you'll need to know. HUD requires that the applicant be a CDC or CHODO nonprofit organization, and that the proposed activities, programs, project, however you'd like to refer to what you plan to do, it must directly build the capacity of your nonprofit organization. In addition, Enterprise requires that your organization can demonstrate sufficient staff capacity to carry out your grant activities. Recently, HUD gave us guidance about the eligibility of membership organizations seeking to receive Section 4 grants. And they've given Enterprise a much stricter definition of membership groups. So if you fall into this category, please contact the grants team, including myself, through our RFP mailbox address, which is rfp@enterprisecommunity.org. And we'll be able to gather more information and additional documents, if needed, because we'll need to review these on a case-by-case basis. So if any of you are unsure about your organization's eligibility, which does happen every now and then, please email the RFP mailbox, and this way we can get more information. We can request additional organization docs like bylaws and articles of incorporation, things like that, and then we can provide appropriate guidance and make a determination. So please don't be shy about contacting us with eligibility questions or any questions that might arise while you're working on your proposal. We'll be quick to respond, usually on the same day. So unlike our larger Section 4 grant round that's currently underway, this funding opportunity consists of only one stage. And Enterprise will be using the cloud-based slide room program to accept all applications. All applications will need a slide room account, and you'll be prompted to sign in or register once you choose the Apply button on the grants webpage. Applicants can only submit one application for this funding opportunity. Organizations that are currently applying to our other 2019 Section 4 grant opportunity are allowed to apply here since this is a separate RFP, so no worries there. But we ask that you obviously ensure that you have the capacity to manage all activities and funds if you're awarded both grants. Another important thing to note is if your organization has active awards and or pending applications with either one of the other Section 4 intermediaries, and that would be LIFT or Habitat for Humanity. You can still apply for this to this RFP, but you cannot request funding for the same cost, so please keep that in mind. All application information, resources, the application portal, basically everything is located on the Enterprise Grants page, the web page, and this is the link. And all applications will be accepted from eligible organizations operating nationwide. So there isn't any geographic restriction or anything for this funding opportunity. So we have $150,000 total to award under this grant. We anticipate awards up to $60,000 each. So please keep that in mind when you're writing your proposal. And also, of course, your request should be reasonable based upon the work that you're going to do. If you're awarded a grant, the period of performance will need to begin on the first of the month following the execution of the grant by both parties, being Enterprise and the grantee. Enterprise anticipates grant start dates will range from about November through December, so up to January 1st. So you folks need to propose activities and costs beginning sometime around this date range. HUD has told us that we are no longer able to backdate grants, so we are to reimburse for costs only after the grant has been fully executed. So costs may not be incurred before that period start date. Now, this does not necessarily mean that you can't start a project or continue a project that you might already have, in progress. It's just that enterprise can't reimburse for anything prior to that period start date for our grant. So applications should be submitted through Slide Room by an authorized representative of your organization. Consultants may not submit applications on behalf of the applicant. And we also request that the primary and secondary contact people that you'll identify in your application not be consultants. Here's a quick list of the organizational information that you'll be asked to complete once you begin your application Slide Room. It's very straightforward. And again, we ask that the primary and secondary contact people not be consultants. However, one of the two key project personnel that you're going to identify within the application can be a consultant. So now I'm going to turn it over to Amy, who's going to go over the remaining components of the application. Take it away, Amy.
Great, yeah. So now we are going to review the questions and the structure of the application. We're going to go through each of the questions on the application and what we'll be scoring on out of a total possible 100 points. So we'll start with, we're going to ask you for the statement of the problem, which will be scored up to 20 points. You'll have 500 words to answer this prompt in the Slide Room application, and we really strongly suggest that you prepare these answers in a Word document. Then you have a backup, and you can do the word count. And then when you're ready to submit the application, you can copy and paste those responses into your application in Slide Room. So as you're responding to this prompt, you should plan to describe the data limitation or problem your organization is trying to overcome through your proposed data collection and or your analysis efforts. You should include how the grant and the voluntary monthly TA calls the enterprise offers will help you better understand your community needs, better design programs, or to evaluate the successes of projects and programs that are all intended to improve housing stability for low-income people and other vulnerable populations. We're also interested to know if the proposed efforts will help address issues of racial and or systems inequities. So a little later in the presentation, we'll share some resources that you can dig into if you want to unpack this and understand what we mean by that specifically. So moving on to the next section. The next prompt in the application will be your proposed use of funds. This will be scored up to 20 points. You'll have a 400-word limit in the application, and you'll be asked to describe how your organization will plan to use this grant funds and how those expenditures will help your organization address the data limitation or problem that you described in that first prompt. All right. The next question will be around implementation. And this will be up to 15 points. And again, you're going to have 400 words to respond to this. We are asking you to describe how your organization will implement this work. You will need to identify key staff who will work on the project, and Diane was just talking about that a little bit earlier, who those could be. And you will need to demonstrate that your organization has the capacity to implement the proposed work with the limited and optional support from enterprise staff. The next question here will be around knowledge sharing and facilitating change. This will be worth up to 10 points. You'll have 250 words to respond to this prompt. And you should talk through in what ways will key personnel plan to share the outcomes of the work funded by the grant award, either with people involved in your organization or with external audiences. You're really lifting up sharing lessons learned. We want you to discuss with whom you plan to share the outcomes of the work. That could be internal stakeholders, external stakeholders, both, and the ways in which you're going to share it with them, discusses the challenges as you're undertaking this work. Again, you're going to have 250 words to discuss that. And, for 35 points, we'll ask you to discuss how this grant would build your organizational capacity. So we're asking how this grant funding and the TA support, if you opt to use it, would contribute to any of the following results for your organization. Will it enhance your organization's ability to collect or analyze data in the future? Will it enhance your ability to collect and analyze data for other projects and programs that you're undertaking outside of what you've described, directly in this grant? Will it contribute to the organization's ability to close equity gaps or improve or expand projects in the short or long term? Finally, you need to submit a budget, and that budget must reflect the use of your intended grant funds. You should use the budget form that we provide. You can either download it from the link that is here in the presentation that you'll receive, by email afterwards, or you can download it directly from SlideRoom in the application. This is, again, the only form that we're going to accept, so make sure you use one of these links to get that and fill it out and submit it along with your application. And with that, Diane, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to touch upon I'm going to carry it for the rest of the presentation and touch upon a lot of different things, as I touched upon earlier, there are 2 threshold requirements set forth by HUD that all applicants must meet. So your proposal must address the needs of households that have an income of 80% AMI or lower. And it's important to note that within this program, a household can be a single person, a group of people living together, or any persons occupying a housing unit. And also, your organization must satisfy the eligibility requirements listed in Appendix A, as previously mentioned, including, and this is, again, the enterprise requirement, excuse me, having a demonstrated staff capacity to carry out your grant activities. And again, more detailed information can be found on our website, but also by watching our video tutorial and downloading the associated resource documents. Here's the link, or you can always email our RFP mailbox. So please note that applications failing to meet these requirements will not be reviewed. Remember that the RFP and access to SlideRoom can be found on the grants webpage, which is on the enterprise website. And once you've created your SlideRoom account, you'll be able to review all the questions that you'll need to answer, and you can even do this before beginning your application. One of the great things about SlideRoom is that it automatically saves work as it's entered. So you can log in and out as many times as you need to complete your application. And here's what the buttons look like on the grants webpage. You'll download the RFP as a PDF document, and it'll have other hyperlinks in it. But please note, it will not have a direct link to enter SlideRoom to begin your application. That can be done only from the grants webpage using that Apply Now button. So some more application information. 72 hours before the deadline to submit, the deadline being Friday, September 6th. If your organization hasn't already submitted their application, the SlideRoom account owner, that primary contact person that you listed in the application, will receive an email reminder stating that you haven't submitted the application yet. So within a week of the deadline, which would be Friday, August 30th, a countdown timer will appear in SlideRoom to help applicants in different time zones know exactly how much time is left to submit. Very important. We ask that you please carefully review your application before submitting, because once you submit it, changes cannot be made, and unfortunately we can't make any exceptions to this policy based on rules that have been set forth by HUD. And we ask that you, there will be a fair amount of required questions, which will be marked clearly in the application. If you have omitted any questions, if you have omitted any answers to those, a red link will appear at the top of the screen to take you to those application questions. After submitting your application, you'll see a confirmation screen with a confirmation ID number and the submission date and the program which it was submitted to. A confirmation email about the submission will also be sent to the account owner, so please keep this email for your records. You can also print the submission confirmation and the application itself, but unfortunately the application, once it's done in SlideRoom, can't be saved as a Word or a PDF file. So as Amy mentioned, we strongly recommend that you prepare your narrative responses, at the very least, in Microsoft Word, and then transfer the text into the application fields. And this way, you'll know your word count, per answer, and you'll be able to easily edit the text if needed prior to hitting the submit button. We've heard feedback that this is the best way to go about entering information into SlideRoom, is actually doing like a cut and paste from Word. So applications must be submitted through SlideRoom by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday, September 6th. And again, Enterprise cannot honor requests to change an application after it's been submitted. So again, please carefully review everything. Late and hard copy applications will not be accepted, so we cannot accept, and we cannot accept any applications that are submitted outside of SlideRoom. So that being said, we also highly recommend that you plan to submit the application in SlideRoom a day or two before September 6th, in case you run into any unanticipated issues. If you do, you can email the RFP mailbox, or if it's a technical issue, you can email the SlideRoom support team at the address that we'll provide at the end of the session. So here are all our important RFP dates. As you know, the RFP was issued on August 1st, we're having the grants, obviously the grants Q&A webinar now. The deadline for submitting questions will be September 6th at 4 p.m. Eastern. So please plan accordingly, because I'm the one that's going to be answering the questions, and I can't, unfortunately, field the questions until midnight. So that's the cutoff that I need to kind of impose so that I can get everything answered. Our submission deadline for all RFP applications, again, is 11:59, 1 minute before midnight Eastern on September 6th. The funding award notifications will be emailed on Thursday, October 10th, and this includes all recommendation for awards, or all the acceptances, and all the decline notifications. Okay, so here are some handy online references that you can find near the bottom of the grants webpage. These are all hyperlinks that you can access when you receive a copy of this presentation, and several of them are also called out within the RFP, so you'll find hyperlinks within the RFP itself. For the FAQ doc, I wanted to let everyone know that this 9-page PDF document was published based on Enterprise's 2019 National Section 4 Letters of Interest grant opportunity, which was issued in June. So please know that certain sections and questions will not apply to this RFP opportunity. It should be obvious which ones don't apply, but if any information is discrepant within that document, that the data gaps RFP language supersedes language in the FAQ. So if you read something that doesn't quite make sense in the FAQ and that information is reflected in the RFP, go with what's in the RFP. And of course, always you can email the RFP mailbox and I can help you along with that. I also wanted to point out that page 3 of our grants guide lists the 5 administrative requirements to meet if your organization is awarded grant funds. So this section includes some other general information too on our standard terms and conditions, et cetera. So I encourage you to check out that. And here's a link to our section 4 tutorials, and as well as informational resources related to enterprises focused on racial equity, and you may find these useful also. All right, we have some last-minute reminders that are going to make me sound like a broken record, but I cannot stress these enough. Applicants may submit only one proposal to the Data Gaps RFP. Enterprise will only consider RFPs from applicants that have met the threshold requirements, have submitted an application in SlideRoom, and submitted an application by the deadline. The SlideRoom program, and the reason why this is important is because the SlideRoom program automatically will lock the portal at midnight Eastern. So it will prevent any further downloads. So this is absolutely set in stone. Requests to change applications will not be permitted, so please make sure that you especially upload your completed Excel budget form before hitting the submit button. A lot of times, what lands up being forgotten is uploading of documents, and that's the only document that's required, so please just remember to make sure that that document is ready to be uploaded when you hit the submit button. And late submissions, hard copies, and applications submitted outside of SlideRoom will not be able to be accepted. And it would be, on a side note, it would be terrible if you folks went to all the preparation for this and then weren't able to submit it, just because of these particular, restrictions. So we want to make sure everybody has the opportunity to submit their application. All right, so where do you go if you have questions? It depends on what kind of question you have. So most likely you'll want to email the RFP mailbox, which you can do anytime, again, up until 4 p.m. Eastern on September 6th. And then for technical questions, as I mentioned before, about using SlideRoom, please email their support team at support@slideroom.com. Anytime from Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Central. And I hear they're really knowledgeable, and they've helped a lot of people, so they should be able to help you folks quickly. Okay, so one last reminder that this webinar session will be posted on the Enterprise Grants website in about a day or two. An email will go out after this session with a recording link and a copy of this presentation as a PowerPoint presentation. And now I'm gonna open the floor, so to speak, for questions, to address those questions. And we'll try to get in as many as we can in the time that we have left. And anything not addressed or needing further information or further investigation on our parts should be directed to the RFP mailbox. And also, it would be immensely helpful to me if you email the mailbox to reference the Data Gaps RFP in your email, either the subject line or anywhere else, so that I know it's related to this funding opportunity. This particular mailbox is used for all different opportunities. So Donna is going to help Amy and me sort through the questions. So Donna, what would you like to do at this point?
Okay. We've gotten a couple of questions in so far, and just a reminder that if you've got a question for Amy or Diane, go ahead and type it into that Q&A box you'll see on the lower right-hand side of your screen, or it may already be open. And just type that in there and make sure it goes to all panelists, and we will see if we can answer it today. And let's see, one that came in earlier from Betty, she asks, if you're awarding $150,000 and the anticipated award amounts are $60,000, are you only awarding 3 or 4 awards?
Hey, Donna, this is Amy. Oh, sure.
Oh, go ahead, Amy.
Well, I was going to say we are awarding up to $60,000, and so, you know, the amount of awards that we make are really going to depend. It's going to vary depending on the number and quality of the applications we receive and the requested amounts within those top scoring applications.
Excellent, thank you. Jack would like to know, is a statewide rural-focused housing coalition eligible, and more so a target grantee?
So this is Diane. I can answer that. So coalition, I might need some more information, but coalitions should be eligible. They're you know they're basically a joining together of many different, I would think, CDCs and CHODOs in this particular case. The fact that it's statewide, your activities need to be kind of community-based. So your activities would not be able to apply to the entire state. They'd have to identify a region that is more considered a community than statewide. So that's the first thing. A target grantee, you can definitely identify a specific. Well, I want to make sure I understand this. When you say a target grantee, you mean one of the people in one of the organizations in the coalition should be applying for the grant. It shouldn't be the whole coalition as a group. We need one organization to award the funds to. So one organization will need to apply on behalf of the coalition. The activities can be carried out by the coalition, together, collaboratively, but it needs to be one organization applying. I hope that answers the question.
Okay.
If it doesn't, please email the RFP mailbox.
And one small follow-up on that. Regarding the coalition, it would be supporting activities focusing on 3 or 4 communities.
That would be fine. That would fall within the parameters of the eligibility requirements for this particular opportunity.
Okay, great. Maria would like to know, what does a successful application look like, or where can we find examples?
That is a good question. We do not make available examples of applications because they're just very specific as to the activity of each application in order to share a proposal. So we don't do that. Amy might be able to speak to what a
Diane?
looks like.
Diane, we're having some trouble hearing you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Is that better?
Much better, thank you.
Okay, no problem. My wireless headset just died, so my apologies. Okay. So Amy can perhaps speak to what a successful application looks like. I mean, basically, though, it's careful thought put into the questions, and also really speaking to outcomes and output metrics of outputs. Amy, do you want to expand upon that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think applicants should look at the RFP and, try to respond, fully to the questions being asked and, think about the issue that they are looking to address and be able to articulate that issue, talk about, how this builds the capacity of their organization, not just to do this work, but to do, future work, to expand on this, to take these learnings and apply them in, other ways within their organization and share that with others, and raise up the learnings from this. So, those I think would be a few aspects of a successful application.
Mm-hmm. And also keep in mind that this is focused on building the capacity of your organization. So anything that you can show or propose in terms of, like lasting, sustainable growth, sustainability of your organization would be terrific.
Okay. We've got another question from Jack. This is a new opportunity. First, what inspired it? And second, does Enterprise see this as a trial run for a potential future dedicated fund, or is this a one-off?
So I can speak to this a little bit. So the Knowledge, Impact, and Strategy Department within which I work has supported the Enterprise's overall Section 4 grants in the past to support organizations who are doing data-driven work. So we have had sort of similar types of RFPs that we've either administered or that we've worked with other enterprise program areas to support this particular type of work. So it's not, entirely new, but this is something that's a little bit new in terms of, supporting specifically rural and tribal practitioners to focus on these kinds of data issues. It really emerged out of challenges we were seeing in the field, our work with enterprises, rural and tribal program that, focuses in this area, and just, seems like a issue that we could address through this dedicated grant. Whether this will be an ongoing, dedicated fund, I think is TBD. And, we'll see how this goes and, if we have the resources in the future to continue supporting this. Dan, do you have anything to add?
No, that's great. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Okay, excellent. Our next question comes from Jessica, who says, our organization has a statewide footprint. I just want to confirm, is it okay to have a statewide geography, knowing our housing efforts target rural areas of the state?
Yeah, I can take that. That's absolutely fine. We understand that there are organizations that function that have that statewide footprint, and as long as you said, as long as you target the rural areas, that's fine. So yeah, we're fine with that.
Great. Jack's got a question on, he says, we currently have an Enterprise Section 4 grant that the period of performance ends on February 29, 2020. We would still be able to apply, right? This would support that ongoing work.
If it's supporting the same, I was going to say yes, absolutely. But if it's supporting the same ongoing work, they're not supposed to overlap. That's like it's like an enterprise, like best practices type thing. It's not necessarily HUD saying you can't do it. So Jack, if you could email the RFP mailbox, I need to check with our senior grants specialist and see if there is a strategy that we could maybe employ to see if it's possible, or if it is, if it is possible, I want to confirm it. So if you could send that to the RFP mailbox, and I'll do a little more digging and check with our senior grant specialist.
Great. While we're waiting for some more questions to come in, just a quick reminder that this session has been recorded. So if you missed any part of it, or you simply want to revisit, the recording as well as a copy of the slides with all those great links will all be made available to everyone who registered within 24 hours. With any luck, that should be hopefully before lunchtime tomorrow, but we generally say 24 hours. And it looks like I've got a couple more coming in. Let's see. Oh, no, I was mistaken. That was not a new question. Well, while we're waiting to see if we get any last-minute questions, Amy or Diane, do you have any wrap-up words for us?
Amy, anything?
No, we're just really excited to have this opportunity to do this, and really to be able to invest resources in this topic and grow our partners and the people who are working on the front line in the field. So we're really excited to see the applications.
And I definitely echo those Amy's thoughts. Enterprise really values partnerships, and a lot of our help that we can give to organizations and, through that our beneficiaries is through Section 4. And HUD has placed a great importance on rural and Native American, rural and Native American initiatives, and helping to really step up support to groups that are assisting and supporting those areas, those rural and Native American areas. So this is a very important, effort for us. So we appreciate the interest and really look forward to the applications and reading some really great proposals.
Wonderful. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Diane. We haven't gotten any more questions in, so y'all get a little bit more time back this afternoon. And with that, I'm going to close down this webinar. Wish everybody good luck, and we will see your proposals online soon. Goodbye.